Today, we are diving deep into a game that has fascinated people for an incredible 1,500 years. We're talking kings, caliphs, artists, scientists, everyone. We are, of course, talking about the game of chess.
Okay, picture this. The battlefield is just electric with tension. You've got your infantry pushing forward, the cavalry is sweeping in from the flanks to surround the enemy, the war elephants have already smashed through the defensive lines, and the king? Well, the king is trapped. There's nowhere left to run.
So, is this a real war we're talking about, or is it just a game? Well, for a millennium and a half, chess has been all of those things. It's been a tool for military strategy, a powerful metaphor for life and politics, and, the ultimate yardstick for measuring intellectual genius. So let's jump right in at the very beginning.
Now, our story doesn't start with a dry historical record. It actually starts with a legend. We need to travel all the way back to the 6th century, to the Gupta Empire in India, to find the seeds of what would become this global obsession.
So the story goes like this. A young prince is tragically killed in a battle, and his brother, trying to explain this devastating loss to their grieving mother, comes up with an incredible idea. He recreates the entire battle on an 8x8 board, showing her how each unit moved, how the strategy played out, and how her son was, in the end, trapped and defeated.
This original game was called Chaturanga, and that name, it tells you everything you need to know. In Sanskrit, Chaturanga literally means 4 divisions. It's a direct reference to the 4 branches of the ancient Indian army. You had your infantry, your cavalry, your elephants, and your chariots. The game was the army, just in miniature.
And Chaturanga did 2 things that were just completely revolutionary at the time. First, each type of piece moved differently. It had its own special powers, which was a brilliant way to mimic how a real army worked. And second, the whole point of the game, the entire goal, was centered on one single piece, the king. Winning wasn't about luck or scoring points. It was a pure contest of strategy to capture the enemy leader.
From India, this little war game started an incredible journey. It spread along bustling trade routes and moved through conquering empires. And here's the amazing part. Every new culture that adopted the game also changed it, adding its own unique flavor.
So, the first major stop on this world tour was the powerful Sassanid Empire in Persia. And it's here, in Persia, that the game and its language started to transform into something we'd actually recognize today.
Check this out. In Persia, Chaturanga became Shatranj. The Indian word for king, Raja, became the Persian word Shah. And this is where we get maybe the most famous phrase in all of gaming. When the king was trapped, the Persians would declare Shah Mat, which literally means the king is helpless. Sound familiar? Yep, that is the direct ancestor of our word checkmate.
Then, following the Islamic conquest of Persia, the game was embraced by the Arab world, and it just exploded in popularity. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was a huge cultural touchstone. Poets wrote about it, leaders used it as a metaphor for politics, and the powerful caliphs were obsessed players. Philosophers even loved it, arguing it was proof of human free will because it was all about skill, not like games of chance or dice.
And as the game kept traveling east on the Silk Road, it just showed how incredibly flexible it was. In China, it evolved into Shangqi, where you play on the intersections of the lines, not in the squares. In Mongolia, there's a version called Tamerlane chess played on a massive 11x10 board. And get this, in the Japanese version shogi, you can actually bring captured pieces back to the board to fight for your side. Wild, right?
But the game's journey was far from over, because when it landed in Europe, it was about to go through its most radical reinvention yet. This is where modern chess really begins. Okay, so by the year 1000, chess was pretty well established in medieval Europe. It was seen as great mental training for knights and a handy metaphor for the whole feudal system. But not everybody was a fan. The church was often a bit suspicious. And at one point, it was even banned in France because it was seen as a pointless distraction from more important things.
Then, sometime around the 15th century, one rule change altered everything. The game's weakest piece was this character called the advisor, who could only limp one diagonal square at a time. Well, Europe got rid of the advisor and replaced it with the queen. And this new queen was an absolute monster on the board, combining the powers of the rook and the bishop.
It's no surprise some historians think this change was inspired by the rise of powerful female rulers in Europe at the time.
This one new piece completely supercharged the game. Suddenly it was faster, way more dangerous, and strategically deeper. As the rules started to become standardized across the continent, players could really start to dig in and analyze the game. This is when the study of openings, of middle games, and end games, basically everything we now call chess theory, was born.
So now we're entering the modern era, and chess becomes something new again. It becomes a public spectacle, a stage for clashing ideas, and eventually, a battlefield for global politics.
So during the Enlightenment, the center of the chess world moved into lively coffeehouses. This was the Romantic era. It was all about chess as art. The goal wasn't just winning. It was winning with style, with brilliant, risky sacrifices. But that eventually gave way to the strategic era of quiet, formal tournaments, where what mattered was cold, precise calculation and long-term planning. It was really a fight between chess's art and chess's science.
And nothing, I mean nothing, shows off that romantic style like the immortal game, played in 1851. The master, Adolf Anderssen, to get the checkmate, sacrificed his queen and both of his rooks. He gave away his most powerful pieces on purpose, just to create a beautiful finish. Winning was good, but winning with beauty, that was everything.
Fast forward to the 20th century, and suddenly the chessboard becomes a proxy battle in the Cold War. The Soviet Union poured huge amounts of state resources into finding and training chess masters. They saw winning the world championship as proof of their system's intellectual superiority. And for decades, it worked. They completely dominated the game.
For all of its history, chess was a story of one human mind against another. But as the 20th century came to a close, a totally new kind of player was about to take a seat at the board.
The year was 1997, and the player that finally challenged humanity's reign over the game wasn't from a rival nation. It was a machine.
In a match that the entire world watched, IBM's supercomputer, a beast called Deep Blue, defeated the reigning world champion, the great Garry Kasparov. It was a massive turning point. It was the first time a computer had ever beaten a sitting world champion in a proper, official tournament match. Today, it's not even a question. The best chess programs on your phone can wipe the floor with any human grandmaster. But these machines didn't kill chess. Far from it. They become these amazing tools for training, for analysis, pushing human players to discover new ideas. And we have to remember, these incredible computers, just like the game of chess itself, are a direct product of our own human creativity.
So, from a simple board game made to explain grief to a digital arena that tests the limits of AI, chess has always been a mirror for us, reflecting our conflicts, our passions, and our own genius. And it leaves you with a final thought, right? If human ingenuity created both the game and the machine that mastered it, what's to say that same creativity can't help us find a way out of the major checkmates we're facing in the real world today?